Hello, everyone. Welcome to our group project presentation. Without further ado, let's get started because we don't have much time. Our group is Group 8, which consists of 4 people: Nhi, Meng, Mike, our team manager, and me, Wing. So my part will be about the analysis of this application. So our application has 4 main properties. First is its classes. Our application has 3 basic classes, data, summary, display, as well as the main class, which will incorporate all the 3 classes to work in tandem. Secondly, we have several important functionalities, such as prompting users to choose options from our interface, as well as looping our session until the user wants to quit. Thirdly, we have the basic structure of this program, which consists of 4 main sections: data, input, processing, and output. Finally, we arrive at the individual class diagrams. Each member of Group A had to come up with their own class diagrams based on their own interpretation and comprehension of the system requirements and specification. During our first sprint and first meeting, we sat down and went over each class diagram. After brainstorming, we arrived at a final comprehensive class diagram based on all of the individual class diagrams. And then we use this class diagram to design our program and implement our coding. So next part will be about the design of our class diagram. And I will be talking about the data section as well as the input. Right, so now I will be going to the design of the class diagram, specifically the data and input parts. As you can see, this is an overview of the entire class diagram, 4 parts, as you can see, color-coded. So now let's zoom in into the data part. All right. So as you can see, this section has 4 main classes: CSV class, data filter, database, and data, and an interface data array. So these 4 classes are used to retrieve data from the provided CSV file and store them in an array list. To start off, the CSV file is used to read the CSV file. CSV class is used to read the CSV file and store each data row as a hash map into an array list. The first row in the file will be treated as the header row and the keys in the hash map for subsequent data rows. We also have the data class, as you can see here, which has a constructor, as you can see, that receives a location, date, number of cases, deaths, and vaccinations to create data objects. This class also has getters and setters to retrieve the attributes of a data object. Next, the database class, as you can see here, there you go, use the CSV class. You can see the connection to read the CSV file, and each line of the file will be converted into a data object, which will then be stored in an array of data. The purpose of the last class, data filter, is to filter out only the necessary data from a database object based on the user's location and date range input. It also skips the missing dates in the database. So finally, we arrive at the interface data array, which consists of 2 methods: the size method, which retrieves the size of an array, and the get method, which requires a parameter index. So it get the exact element of an array using an index. Hence, it is implemented by some classes like database and data field to manipulate the arrays. So now we finish with the data. We move on to the input section. So as you can see, the input section has in total 6 classes. So it has 3 enumeration classes: metric, result type, and grouping type. And in each of these classes are predefined constants representing the options of a metric. The program uses these classes to determine the value needed for the output based on the user input. The input section also contains 3 other classes, as I said earlier: the date range, the grouping, and the validation class. The date range class processes the date range input from the user to the determine the start and end dates as a local date object, while the grouping class is used to define the grouping type and numbers of groups based on the user input. Finally, the validate class has methods to cover situation when the user enters input with the wrong syntax or invalid options. So the next part will be a summary and display, because before displaying the the raw data, you need to process it first via the summary section. This part will be presented by Man.
To display data, the user input must first be processed, and this is the functionality of the processing section. Processing only has one class, summary, which uses a data filter object to filter data based on the user's selected location and date range. The filtered data would then be divided into groups based on the grouping type and number of groups entered by the user. Each group is an array list of data, and all the groups will be stored in an array list. After being processed, the data then will be displayed, and this is the main task of the output section. The output has an enumeration display format class with two constants representing the two display options, and a display class with methods to display the data in either tabular or chart format. Regarding the implementation, we used the Agile approach, and each sprint was 1 week. At the beginning of each sprint, we divided the classes, functionalities, or sections between the members, and each of us would work on a separate branch on our Git repo. At the end of each sprint, we reviewed and merged the branches into one single branch to test if the system worked as a whole and if the components worked well together. From the second sprint, we also optimized code and fixed the bugs. Now we will move on to the demo running part, which will be demonstrated by Nhi.
Now I will run the program to demonstrate how it works, and to run the program we have to run it from the main class. So as can be seen in the console, when the program starts, a header is printed to show the main purpose of the program, and the program also shows the path of the database and a message to let the user know that the database is loading. So when finished loading, the program will display a list of all countries and continents for the user to select one. So to select an option, the user must type the number corresponding to that option in the list. They cannot type out any words. So for example, if I want to enter Vietnam here, the system will tell me that my input is invalid and tell me to enter one of the options specified above. So I have to enter a number. And this will happen again and again until the user enters a valid option. And this validation process also applies to other user input sections. So since I want to choose Vietnam, I will have to enter the number here, 226. So I'll enter 226. And then the system will display the country that I've chosen and move on to the next section, which is the date range section. So I can either choose a pair of start and end dates, choose a number of days or weeks before end date, and choose the number of days or weeks after start date. So for this time, I will choose the pair of dates, and then the user will ask me to enter a pair of dates in this format. So I will enter 2021 April 1st and 2021 April 18th. Next, the system will ask me to choose a metric, so I can either view data about cases, deaths, or vaccination. So I want to see vaccination data, so I will choose option 3. And the program will ask me next for a calculation method, so either new vaccinations per period or cumulative vaccinations. So I want to see cumulative, so option 2. And then next, the user can specify if they want to see no grouping, to see a specific number of groups, or to see a specific number of days per group. So I want to have a number of groups, so I will choose option 3. And the system will ask me for the number of groups, so I will try 7 this time. Next, after getting all the necessary input, the program will ask which format we would like to display our data in. I want to see my data in the table this time, so I will choose option 1. So the program will then display a processing message and then before displaying the results. As can be seen, the result table has a column here for the dates in groups, and then the column on the right displays the corresponding cumulative vaccination data of each date range. So the program also allows the user to continue as many times as they want by entering Y, or exit the program by entering N. Either upper or lowercase is fine. Since I want to run another time, I will enter Y here. And then this time I want to choose data about the UK. So it's UK, it's 219. So I enter that number. And then I want to try option 2 for date range. And I will enter a 12th day, 2021, February 14th. And we also want to see data of new depths per period this time. So option 2 and 1. I also want no grouping and display by charts. So that's 1 and 2. And as you can see here, the chart is displayed with the asterisks here as the data points. I will just run the program one more time to include all the options. So I would enter a yes here. And this time I will pick a random place. So I'll choose number 2. And the region chosen is Africa, which is the continent. And then I will try option 3, number of days or weeks after start date. And I will enter 2020, August 24, and then 2 weeks. And then I will choose the cases this time, cumulative, and days per group. And then the system will ask me to enter the number of days per group. So I would enter 5 and then choose tabular this time. So as you can see, this is the result table displayed here. And now I want to exit the program. So I would just have to enter N and the program will exit. So that's the end of our presentation. Thank you for watching and goodbye.